Throughout time, there have only been a handful of Punisher games, but only one has truly captured the true essence of the character, the violence, the gore, and the gruesome nature of the darkness that lies within Frank Castle. This game did such a good job, not only does Disney want you to forget about it, but it got to the point where other countries forced scenes to be edited or removed completely, and even going as far as being placed on the Federal Department for Human Harmful to Young Persons in Germany. I might be sick in the head and physically, but all this stuff doesn't push me away. Oh no, my curiosity draws me towards it. I want to know more. Is it really that bad? I want to see how truly unhinged this game actually is. So, join me as I take a look at The Punisher. Released in 2005, in The Punisher you play as Frank Castle, whose family was killed by the Mafia, and now dedicates his life to taking down criminals. In the opening cutscenes we see him take down some Yakuza, and ultimately surrender to the Popo. This leads to Frank getting interrogated by Molly von Richthofen and Martin Soap. Most of the story is told through flashbacks of how he got here. In the first level, he approaches a crack house run by Damage, who we have a gentle talking to.
Walker died, Damage.
Go ahead and kill me.
Then Frank is almost hit by a car, so he tracks down the car to a chop shop owned by the Ganucci crime family. As Frank starts to take down more of the Ganucci's operation, Ma Ganucci wants revenge and hires Bushwhacker to kidnap Frank's neighbor to lure him to the zoo. After rescuing the neighbor, Frank learns Russian mercenaries were funding the Ganucci operation and are smuggling a nuclear weapon. So we go to stop that and find that they're smuggling way more than just weapons.
This changes things.
After dealing with that, we find that the Kingpin has taken over the Ganucci turf, who then says it was the Yakuza that was behind this the whole time. The Yakuza steals some Iron Man tech, so we confront the head of the Yakuza, who reveals the true mastermind behind it all, Jigsaw. Frank back in the day had a polite talking to this dude as well, which led to an explosion going off in his face, which led him getting the nickname of Jigsaw. So this freak managed to infiltrate the Yakuza, gaining followers to do his bidding, turning the gangs against each other with help from Frank of course, so he can eventually swoop in and take over himself. But Jigsaw is now at Rikers Island, so Frank lets himself get captured to go and stop him. The story fits the Punisher character very well and makes sense for that world. Garth Ennis, who wrote for the Punisher comics, is a writer for this game, and loosely based the story off of Volume 5 and Volume 6 from the early 2000 comic book series. He took some of the 2004 movie with Thomas Jane as well, who actually voiced the Punisher here. And I think he did a pretty good job. He's gruffy, he's moody, he did great. I think he did better here than he did in the actual movie.
You done the right thing, Soap, all along.
The game instantly reminded me of Max Payne, from the comic book art style to how dark and dingy this version of New York is, and even from a gameplay standpoint, it's just not as polished as Max Payne, but its gore and violence definitely makes up for the gameplay. You are equipped with your main firearms and your secondaries, and you can akimbo them as well. As you go along, you unlock more guns for the armory you have access to at the beginning of each chapter. The formula of the game is very simple. You go from point A to point B. You just move forward, popping a ton of caps and a ton of asses. You get to the end, you move on. You are scored and awarded medals, and then you unlock different modes you can replay the levels in. You use your score as points for the upgrades to get better health, better accuracy, your typical upgrades that are actually felt a little bit. The shooting feels like your average PS2 quality of a shooter. I found it to be decent, even by today's standards for sure. It's like still playable. I didn't have no issues with it at all. You have your life bar, and this orange bar is the ammo, and this actually took me a minute to understand. At first I didn't even notice it. I thought that the ammo I had was the numbers that was shown, but no, as you reload, the bar starts to go down. But there are just so many guns on the floor that ammo never was an issue. This blue meter is for your slaughter mode, where everything goes black and white and becomes faster, and he pulls out knives that you can throw and insta-kill and do some pretty sick kills at a close range. Even without the slaughter mode on, you can easily walk up to somebody and quick kill them. Doesn't matter if you're seen or not, doesn't matter if you're in stealth mode, you just run around and slaughter people. You can grab them and use them as shields, which becomes pretty vital in the later levels. Killing innocent people ends the game and restarts the level. So if you're at home keeping track and listening to everything I'm saying, thank you, number one. Number two, you're probably wondering where the hell is the controversy come in? So far you've been describing your typical PS2 third-person shooter. Well, along with using them as shields or just straight up killing them, you can also interrogate them for information to help proceed within the level. You perform a little mini game where you must keep their stress level within this yellow bar for 3 seconds to have them cough up the info. But if you go too far, you could end up killing them and even getting minus points. Oh, but killing them once they rat is completely fine for some reason. And you can do this by threatening them with a gun, punching them in the face, or just straight up choking them. Enemies with logos above their heads provide better info like clues to hidden switches for rooms with better guns and ammo, or how to proceed to the next section, along with names and a little bit of light story progression. But the messed up parts come in the form of special interrogations. These are glory parts on the level where you can trigger an interrogation using things from the level. And these just get crazier and crazier, from using buzzsaws to being crushed by a car, fed to piranhas, speared by rhinos, and even fed to frickin' Jaws. Ooh, that's not very Disney. Not only do you get info, you also get rewarded with some health as well. So sometimes you're like, oh no, I'm dying. Hold on, let me choke this guy out real quick. I'll be right back, I need some health.
Oh shit, don't kill me. You're sick, Punisher. You've been
That's much better. You also collect comic book flashbacks while performing some of the interrogations, and I thought these were cool. They kind of scared me the first time they popped up, but then I couldn't wait for them to pop again. I wanted to collect them all. Of course, by today's standards, we see this as some gory fun, right? But 20 years ago, not so much. The game was going to be rated A for adults only by the ESRB, which would have affected sales since Microsoft nor Sony allow such ratings for their consoles. So devs decided to censor some of the interrogations by moving the camera away or putting a black and white filter to distort some of the gruesome violence. Even though the violence is over the top, it does still serve the character very well. I totally believe Frank Castle would go to these lengths to get information he deemed important. Or maybe that's just me justifying my sick brain. Feed him to the Sharky! Wait! This game was a bit longer than I expected it to be. There are 16 levels and you explore multiple environments and areas, taking down different types of enemies. Like I said, it's super linear, but this is what I would want from a Punisher game. Run and shoot your way through levels. And for what it is, this game is still pretty fun. Character dialogue is a bit campy and cheesy, but in a good way.
Sir, the procedure takes time.
If that nuke isn't armed in 30 seconds, I'm gonna use you as a condom!
It's also very vulgar, which again, I feel like fits the whole Punisher vibe. It wouldn't make sense for Mafia and Yakuza to speak very politely.
I'm telling you, the guy's a dick.
There's a few boss fights as well. Again, there's a lot of running around and shooting. Some of the bosses do become bullet sponges and you have to chip away at the life bar. Others, there's a little bit more to the design to it, like shoot a gas tank, throw a grenade, or take down the chopper. Then they even add some surprisingly cool cameos to the mix. You'll see Black Widow, Nick Fury, Bullseye, Kingpin, and even Daredevil looking like a young Robert Redford.
Anything my client has said without his attorney present is inadmissible. Mr. Castle, don't say another word.
And even Iron Man himself. We are still a few years removed from the first Iron Man movie, so it was actually kind of cool to see these characters in this different light. And their inclusion doesn't feel forced whatsoever. Their appearances make sense.
What are our losses?
I loved Frank's look in this game. He looks like he does in the comic book, and in the cinematic cutscenes, he kind of looks like an Alex Ross version of the Punisher. I don't know, I thought it looked pretty cool. I was very surprised how much I loved the music. Some of it sounds like it was performed for the Vatican. And the rest of it just fits the dingy darkness of the Punisher character. I really did enjoy my bloody time with this game. I had never played it before, and if you've never played it before and this is your type of game, I highly recommend you try it out. And if you did play it, what were your memories of it? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But most importantly, would you like a new Punisher game? Because I know I would. With this character, you can just do so much with it. You can go a third person like a Gears of War style game, or a first person Doom type, simply running and gunning all over the place with tons of gore and violence. You could build upon the ideas from this game as well, like a third person. You could easily mold a game around this world and these characters any which way you want. There was a post-credit scene with Kingpin hinting at a sequel, and it was even being worked on before it had to get cancelled when THQ had to file for bankruptcy. They also felt like the sequel wouldn't have worked commercially due to its violence. There have been a ton of reports that the game would have been an open world game, and concept art reveals Elektra, Daredevil, Nick Fury, Black Widow, and Bullseye were going to be featured along with Deadpool, which sounds pretty awesome, and many people like me are kind of bummed that this actually never came out. But what did come out of it was arguably what the developers' Volition are most known for, the first Saints Row game. And looking back at that first Saints Row game, it sounds a bit like what this Punisher game would have been, an open world crime game. Some of the gameplay in this Punisher game reminded me of early Saints Row, the gameplay specifically. So I do see some very early DNA of Saints Row in this little Punisher game. I really love the Saints Row series, even though it did go off the rails towards the end, but it's a very fun series to play. So I feel grateful for this Punisher game, because I feel like we probably wouldn't have Saints Row if it weren't for this crazy Punisher game.